Unmuted. Hello, everybody. Happy, what is it, Thursday. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It depends. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for waiting. It was a very busy day. I paid utmost attention to figure out what the heck happened in Paris, but also, most importantly, virtually when Coalition of the Willing has met today. And certainly you probably have seen so many official statements as to everything is lovey-dovey, and Europe is so counting on United States, which ultimately resulted in the prepared statements. Because usually before any big gathering happens, they kind of know where everybody will align with, and they prepare statements. And so the statements that were then outdated since that heated call with President Trump, which I will tell you all about today, um, the statements came out at the same time the meeting ended, which was sort of like all over the place. And Canada was like, we're so happy that Trump is on board. Europe is so happy Trump is on board. Meanwhile, Trump was like, I am not on board. So let's dive into it. Let's dissect and figure out what did happen. So, hi, Michael. Hello, Peter. Hi, Shirley. Lovely people. Hello. So lovely. Thank you, guys. You're so sweet. Okay, first things first. Not so sweet and not so nice. Portugal declared National Day of Mourning. What did happen was the Gloria funicular, a historic symbol of Lisbon and the favorite among tourists, derailed on Wednesday evening, yesterday night. 17 people lost their lives in the accident, including foreign nationals whose identities have not yet been made public. In the response to the tragedy, Portuguese authorities have declared a national day of mourning. And if this affects you in any way, just know that we are with you, and tell us how we can help. And perhaps, there were people, for instance, people who are from Ukraine, and at that point they were in Lisbon, and everybody was checking up on them, and they were doing the touristy things, but thankfully not this part of the town. So you never know who will be in that space. So if you're in any way affected, know that our thoughts are with you. All right. So now, as to Coalition of the Willing, just for you to visualize, this was in Paris today, hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron. And so in Paris, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy took part in the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing convened by Macron. Also present, as you see here, were Finnish President Stubb, Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, European Council President Antonio Costa, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. And so I will guide you through the official part, and then we're going to see what happened behind the scenes. Okay? So, officially, the participants coordinated their positions and discussed the framework of security guarantees for Ukraine. Leaders noted that military commanders have already pre-agreed. So the military commanders of all those countries have met, have discussed what and how those security guarantees could be manifested. Okay? So they emphasized that the strongest guarantee for Ukraine's security remains a capable and well-equipped Ukrainian army. Now, before we go any further, let's hold on here. So what are we discussing? We are not discussing any country sending physical troops to Ukraine right now to help Ukraine withstand Russia's pressure, invasion, offensive, and anything. We are discussing what will happen once Zelenskyy and Putin have agreed to some type of a peace agreement. Okay? So for that reason, when I'm saying, well, Putin said this, Putin said that, and I'll get you to, what he did say, rightfully so. A lot of you are commenting, but why do we give an F about what Putin says? We kind of have to give an F, unfortunately, to this murder, because this is a precondition to talking about all those security guarantees. Putin is listening what Ukraine will be getting, and he's using it as a reason to not agree to any peace agreement. And it's very difficult, at least for me, whose life has been affected by this murder through the years, and especially the last 3 years, to even think about Russia and peace in the same sentence. Russia doesn't want peace. Russia has invaded everybody and anybody. So for that reason, it's kind of difficult to, to put those two together. There's a great clip that kind of, shows everything that I wanted to say in terms of Russia and peace. And I know we'll be banned for that music and all of it. But anyway, does this paint enough of a picture? That talking about Russia and peace in one sentence just makes absolutely no sense. But I understand we play pretend because this is some type of diplomacy, and we are counting on Putin to maybe at some point do the right thing. So essentially, he's listening to what Ukraine is being promised and says, I don't want to have any Western troops on Ukrainian land. Meanwhile, who is he to even decide and say? But unfortunately, whatever this guy says at this point matters because he will not agree to a peace deal. All of that is bogus. Okay? Let's continue. The leaders agreed on a shared understanding that Russia is deliberately dragging out negotiations to prolong the war. As a result, support for Ukraine must increase and pressure on Russia must intensify. The EU is preparing 19th package of sanctions, while Japan announced it is developing additional measures. Now, you saw those who were there in person. Now, as to those who have joined online, as you see here, and I want to list everybody. So joining online were leaders from Cyprus, Lithuania, Romania, Australia, Albania, Bulgaria, United Kingdom, Greece, Estonia, Ireland, Spain, Italy, Canada, Latvia, Luxembourg, Germany, New Zealand, Norway, Portugal, Slovenia, Croatia, and Czech Republic, Montenegro, Sweden, Japan, NATO, Turkey, Austria, and Iceland. So all of them are together. Now, what does happen behind the scenes? As you have seen here, the special envoy, who does not need any interpreters when he talks to Putin, meanwhile he doesn't speak Russian, Witkoff is here. You see him further right, the right, very right corner, half of him is there. And so Witkoff is there. And after about 19-20 minutes, he says, I got to step out and I'll be back when the Europeans will call President Trump. For some reason, Witkoff, who traveled all the way to Paris, says, I got to step out. Okay. As soon as the coalition of the willing is about to call Trump, Russia launches a massive attack on Ukraine. Now, you might be wondering, as much as I do, how the hell Russia knew when all these leaders will be calling Washington, D.C. and Donald Trump. Now, they're so in sync. Or maybe Witkoff was the sinking part. Now, President Zelenskyy rejected any territorial concessions. Thankfully, publicly, he did say it. Quote, if someone supports this crazy idea of territorial exchanges, who can give you guarantees that Putin won't continue? No one can give such guarantees. He has lied so many times, so we cannot trust him. We cannot hand over territory to him under any circumstances. Donbass is a very strong part of our defensive line. And so here you have the crack, where essentially Trump in Alaska has agreed to everything Putin told him to agree to. No sanctions on Russia. Let's lift off sanctions. Let's start talking about business between US and Russia. And let's push Zelenskyy to give up territory, specifically Donbass. And I explained it to you about a week ago why Donbass, not because Russians really want to monetize it. They want Ukraine to never have ability to rebuild Donbass, which was really important for Ukrainian economy before the war. Okay? Now, Romanian President Dan, remember they had the election, the good guy won. It's the good guy. He praised the meeting on X. Again, this is the pre-prepared statements. That's why it became a little bipolar today. He says, very good and substantive meeting today of the Coalition of the Willing, presided by Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer. U.S. involvement remains crucial in all aspects of our joint efforts to reach a ceasefire and a lasting peace in Ukraine. Macron was emphasizing readiness. He says the Coalition of the Willing is ready to provide Ukraine with security guarantees as soon as ceasefire is reached. And this is the key. As soon as ceasefire is reached, meaning Russia stops bombing Ukraine. Zelenskyy added, this is very important. He says, quote, the Coalition of the Willing looks for now mostly theoretical. Exactly the point I'm trying to make here. We're talking about, in Russian, unfortunately, I do speak Russian. We have this saying, don't divide the skin of the bear that hasn't been killed yet. Maybe you have some different type of sayings, but that are hinting on the same meaning. Like they're talking about what's going to happen when. The problem is this when. And this when is becoming now strongly an if. Will there be a ceasefire? And it now depends on Putin, whether Putin wants to and needs it to rebuild, gain some time until he gets more support from China, North Korea, Iran, and all this, right? Now, still Zelenskyy says that he believes in the potential of this coalition of the willing. Meanwhile, Russia issued a warning, Kremlin officially issuing warnings that it would not accept the presence of Western troops in Ukraine. All of that happens during the meeting, while Witkoff is going in and out. Okay? So, then the heated call with Trump happens. The coalition's discussions really ended in the tense call with Trump, because they discussed it, they've agreed it, Witkoff came back, and now they're calling Trump while Russia is bombing Ukraine. Now, I have heard that from people who were in the room, and then it starts leaking in Bild and Axios, and so all this news media agencies have reported on that too. So, essentially what happened in this meeting? Trump shifted responsibility for pressuring Putin onto Europe. He said, I will not be putting any sanctions. I will not be pushing Putin anywhere. You Europeans do it. And how he flips the narrative, he says, Trump accused Europeans of buying Russian oil and financing its war machine. Ursula von der Leyen comes back with countering him that Europe had significantly reduced oil purchases after Russia's 2022 invasion. Trump then says that only Hungary and Slovakia still import Russian oil directly. But Witkoff then starts speaking out, saying that Europe is still buying Russian oil indirectly through India. So then when the conversation turned to sanctions, European leaders proposed sending representatives to Washington, D.C. within 48 hours to build a working group on sanctions. Essentially, European Union is already working on the 19th package of sanctions, but some people that would convince Trump, Rubio, Hegseth, and Besant to impose some type of sanctions on Russia. Now, it is not clear if Trump agreed to it. Other sources tell me he did not, which kind of makes sense. Trump told Europeans they should put more pressure on China to halt purchases of Russian oil. But notably, Trump has imposed secondary sanctions on India, but not on China. If anything, he dropped it. Right on China for purchasing Russian crude oil. Now, the call left European leaders convinced that Trump has no intention of imposing further sanctions on Russia, and some feared he might instead target Ukraine with sanctions. And according to my sources, this is where Zelenskyy got up and started screaming that we are the victim. What the hell is wrong with you? At a press conference, now everybody is poised, calm, cool, and collected like a cucumber. Macron confirmed that there are 26 countries that have formally made pledges to provide additional forces to Ukraine where needed, to be it on land, in the air, or by the sea. Again, once the ceasefire is agreed to. Here are some videos from that conference.
And they are fighting an immoral war. So discussions are only possible if we can have very strong peace guarantees for Ukrainian people. And if those conditions are absolutely essential for a ceasefire or a peace agreement or an armistice. There are 26 countries who have formally made pledges, who have committed to provide additional forces in Ukraine where needed, be it on the land, in the air, or by sea, to provide, again, further support to Ukraine and to Ukraine.
So then Macron starts talking about the conversation with Trump, where he says, well, we spoke with Trump and, we will shore up American support. All members of the coalition of the willing take it responsibly, meaning like, oh, we're going to push Trump to send our people to try to convince Trump. So he's trying to kind of smooth it over. Here's the video.
So, spoke with President Trump, during which we were able to outline a number of conclusions, which are quite simple. In the coming days, we are going to finalize the American support for these guarantees. And again, they're going to be fully involved in all steps of the process. And I would like to thank representatives of the armed forces or political forces for all of their work. So in the coming days, we will shore up American support, but it was said very clearly that all members of the coalition of the willing, be they European or from Asia, the Pacific region, Canada, all took on responsibility.
Now, as to your comments, I see Shirley saying, no sign of the event reported. You mean the Trump call? This has been reported by Built and Axios. So it's been reported. Jared says hi. Hello, Jared. Okay, so as to Russia's escalation, as the coalition now prepared the call with Trump, Russia launched ballistic missiles, I told you, at Chernihiv, a clear sign, right? Now, to regroup a little bit, yesterday, Putin was speaking in China, where he said, if Zelenskyy is ready, let him come to Moscow. Such a meeting will take place. Then today, Zelenskyy, speaking in Paris at the press conference, said, if you want the meeting not to happen, invite me to Moscow. The fact that Russia has started talking about a meeting, though, is actually good. I mean, Russia tried to execute Zelenskyy so many times that you think he's going to go to Moscow? You really? Zelenskyy did reiterate that Ukraine's guarantees are EU membership for economic reasons and the strength of Ukrainian army. Like, okay, you don't want to take us into NATO, but make our army stronger. Okay? So, as to Trump, he was speaking yesterday. Hey, Mike, how America can claim that it's the leader of the freedom and democracy is laughable. Not now. Not now. Not now. Because it's like, no, it's like you're on a diet and you're like, I'm all about healthy eating. And then you drop the diet, that you eat is McDonald's. So at this point, nobody should give rats behind about your diet, that you did a month ago if you all is McDonald's at this point. Stupid example, but kind of hits. Portugal event. This was reported last night. This was yesterday, and we do have a pictures of it. So the last thing that I would do is making up something this horrible in Portugal. Okay. So, as to Trump on China and Russia. So, yesterday, he was welcoming the right-wing president of Poland. And there he was asked about China. And here's some quotes. Asked about China's summit and parade with Xi Jinping, Trump said, quote, "China needs us. I have a very good relationship with President Xi. I had actually a very good meeting with President Putin a few weeks ago." He described Xi's parade as beautiful, impressive, and claimed that it was staged hoping I was watching, and I was. And then Trump added, "Xi is a friend, but I was surprised that US wasn't mentioned. We helped China greatly to gain its freedom and deserved credit." End quote. I mean, what are we even talking here about? What, US helping China to gain freedom in World War? What are you talking about? Do you know a thing? One thing. Do you know anything at this point? What good meeting with Putin? It was great for Putin. It was horrible for you. You were rolling red carpets to a murderer. Then you dropped sanctions and started talking business with him. And now you want to impose sanctions against the victim of invasion. I mean, what's up with you? And I'm not going to show you that video because I'm going to be banned for that stupid song. But he posted a video of himself, like an AI-generated thing, dancing with Cracker Barrel character to YMCA. There is nothing on the agenda officially today. There's a 7:30 p.m. grift dinner at the White House Rose Garden that is now a parking lot. That's all. What are we doing, really? As to EU, European Commission Vice President Kaja Kallas announced today that the EU is moving forward with major trade agreements with Mercosur and Mexico. According to Kallas, these deals will generate billions in exports and create new jobs across European Union. She emphasized that these agreements mark a step forward for Europe's global influence. And so this is a big thing where Canada and European Union are trying to build themselves up as the global economic influence, which is really a counterweight to China and their friends. Meanwhile, did I mention United States? No, because we are just distancing ourselves from everything. And if you think that the tariffs are somehow fixing our trade deficit, stay tuned because I got the numbers. It's getting worse. Okay, so before we get into the numbers, I told you about Trump welcoming this right-wing president of Poland. Now, what was not seen yesterday per poll reports was seen today in a variety of posts. You may have forgotten, but this guy who won, the right-wing guy who won the presidential election in Poland, Nawrocki, he actually came to Trump and met him at the Oval Office way before the election. After that, the CPAC traveled to Poland. They had, same as they did in Germany with AfD, they did conferences and concerts and all of that in support of him. And so when he came to the Oval Office yesterday, Trump gave him a gift with the picture. Well, he's learning from Putin and learning fast. The gift is the picture of him and Nawrocki before the election with Trump saying, "You will win." And this is actually the tweet that, was with that picture at that point. Now, Polish President Karol Nawrocki revealed a personal gift from Trump. This is what I told you. And then Trump, I think, listen, what do we know? Nothing. Trump doesn't know what he's saying. But he said yesterday that no, I will be leaving the troops in Poland, referring to American troops as NATO troops in Poland. And if anything, I might even add more. And this was today so celebrated by Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, and senior government officials who welcomed Trump's remarks, calling them a reassuring signal of Washington's continued commitment to European security. Now, with all this, the fact is, and yesterday we talked about it here, and I put it in the news briefing, and by the way, if you're not subscribed, please, it's free. Get your facts. Now, yesterday it was announced by Pentagon that US is dismantling these, organization and troops that are currently in Europe, and they're calling them back, saying that this is financially not feasible for United States and does not align with our new America First policy. So meanwhile, you're doing all this, but you told on camera to President of Poland that you gonna send more troops to Poland? I mean, does anybody think that sending troops somewhere is a thing that is decided and done within an hour? It's again the same lie, telling one thing, meanwhile doing completely something reverse in the background and doing it for some time. So, if you're in Poland and celebrating, I mean, good for you. Now, Kim Jong-un was shitting in his own luggage that he brought to Beijing. I mean, shortly. I mean, I call a thing a thing. Same as Putin does. North Korea, now in the good English. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un arrived in Beijing with extraordinary precautions to ensure no trace of him was left behind. After his meeting with Vladimir Putin, aides were seen wiping down every object Kim touched. Even his personal toilet traveled with him aboard the green train in Beijing, and they also were carrying with it. There's also a video of the guys with the luggage where Putin shits and pees into, running behind Putin to the public bathroom, and then all 6 of them running out when he was leaving. It's a thing. So why they do it? The paranoia has an explanation. According to Reuters, intelligence services could potentially extract sensitive information about Kim's or Putin's health from DNA, skin, or hair samples, or other type of samples. You got the point? Well, for Kim Jong-un, his father was already doing the same. His father, Kim Jong-il. Yes? Or il. Yeah. I-L. Okay. Now, this thing was not reported. Let me get your comment. Do you have one? Hey, Shirley says, oh, you're always spot on with your reporting info and more. I was referencing MSM. Yeah. Okay. I mean, MSM, and I got you. And really, thank you for pointing this out. This is horrific because in US, we have people who live in Poland, in Portugal. We have friends or family members, right? So it's just our job to report on it. And especially during summer season when people are traveling. And mainstream media, like European mainstream media, is different. They also whitewash everything. I was watching French news, and they're like, "Oh, America is helping Ukraine." It was like, where? They're whitewashing a lot. They're trying to play pretend, but at least they report on things that happen in Europe. Meanwhile, we have our things that happen here, and maybe Europeans are not reporting on the shooting, for instance, that recently happened here. So it could be. Mike is saying, how did the world get like this? Leaders shitting in luggage. Yes. Shit is gonna shit. Okay. Other news. Now, let me know. Shirley, maybe you know, maybe Mike, Jared knows. Did you hear about this? Because this is a biggie, but I haven't seen it anywhere. All I know this from is because I went through immigration. My family went through immigration. So I'm subscribed to USCIS updates. USCIS is United States Immigration Services. And to put one thing, out there is that these services are financed by the fees that they charge toward immigrants or potential immigrants. That's why it's so costly, to do your fingerprint appointment, to apply for a form. You can pay, $500, $600. Altogether, you pay up to $2,000 to apply for, let's say, a green card or more. Then you have to do medical tests that only specific doctors are allowed to do. And you go there and you pay $600 or more dollars, and they actually ask you questions, seal the envelope, and send it to USCIS. So they're self-sufficient in that way financially and detached from the federal government. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, today I'm getting this email because I'm subscribed to their emails. They don't put it in the press release. They don't put it anywhere. But that thing tells us that U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services has been formally granted expanded law enforcement authority under a final rule published today. Newly classified USCIS 1811 officers, known as special agents, will now be empowered to investigate, arrest, and present for prosecution individuals who violate U.S. immigration laws. Normal case scenario. You pay your $2,000, you apply for your green card. In some cases, an interview was needed, like let's say marriage cases. Other green card cases, like let's say family reunification, like you get your parents here or brother, sister, kid, wouldn't need an interview. Now everybody needs an interview. So essentially you pay $2,000 or whatever. You come to the interview as scheduled, and this guy can do anything to you. Now, the tricky part is this also applies to green card holders who are applying for naturalization. Like you're here on a green card, you finally, get a chance, you finally decide to apply for citizenship. You come to your appointment, they can look at your social media, they can have, type of questions. They don't like you, they can detain, arrest, deport, which is a shit show. Now, we're talking about legal immigration. Just want to underline, we're not talking about deportations. We're not talking about people who illegally came here. We're not talking about people who overstayed their visas, because you wouldn't be at that stage to begin with. So, under this rule, DHS has authorized USCIS agents to carry firearms, make arrests, and execute search and arrest warrants with no reason. Powers previously reserved for other federal law enforcement agencies. The change implements Homeland Security Secretary Noam's delegation of enforcement responsibilities to USCIS, right? The USCIS director said, quote, USCIS has always been an enforcement agency. By upholding the integrity of our immigration system, we enforce the laws of this nation. This historic moment will better address immigration crimes, hold those that penetrate immigration fraud accountable, and act as a force multiplier for DHS and our federal law enforcement partners. So altogether, they're hiring more people. All this goes into effect 30 days from being published in Federal Register. Officials say the move will now allow ICE to focus on transnational crime and deportations, while USCIS, now armed with possibility to do anything, will target immigration for fraud and system abuse for legal immigrants. So my question is, and listen, I'm telling you, I came here as a student. I, always did everything legally. I went to USCIS. Was I nervous? Yes, I was nervous. I was nervous when I would go to, US embassy or any type of embassy, even overseas. I'm scared of people with big guns who scream at me. But you do things legally, you are going through the process. Maybe you're intimidated, maybe you're not, but you go through the process. You come here as a student, they ask you questions, you do the right thing, you stay, you work, you pay tax, blah, right? Now, think hard and think long if you really want to do it, because it doesn't seem like you have to do a lot of violation to be facing something you did not account for. All I'm going to say, do the benefits and the risks, right? Do the thinking. Don't go with what you thought was always cool. Nothing is cool. Mike says, Shirley says, I saw your video on Blue Sky about the DNA wiping. Michael says, before retiring, I worked with immigrants that were working for their citizenship. It was about 2000. Yes, and now they doubled it. I can literally show you all this thing. I'm so annoying. Like in my notes app, I have all the fees that I paid and then what my parents paid. And I'm comparing things, and it's like double. So Michael says, one guy did it for 800 with the lawyer. Okay, well, official fees are more than 800. Maybe naturalization was at some point 800. I remember I paid like 990. Anyone traveling to US is really taking a chance, right? That's the point. You come here as a tourist, you come here, even if you come here as a journalist for this UN General Assembly, maybe you speak against the regime. I mean, think. U.S. Energy Secretary is talking about AI promise. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, he has a meeting tomorrow in DC that I'm invited to attend, and I'm like, okay. He highlighted the transformative potential of artificial intelligence, pointing to its role in advancing science and national security. Now, I do have a quote here. This quote also connects with what the First Lady, Melania Trump, today did at the White House. He gathered people to talk about AI. She read a statement written by ChatGPT, allegedly, because it sounds like it. I posted the statement. I don't want to talk a lot about it because it was like nothing. I don't want to waste your time. The statement is on my Blue Sky. If you want to read it, go read it. So, but this thing, whatever Chris Wright is saying, refers to the First Lady. Quote, I'm working every day on using AI to figure out how to cure cancer or launch fusion energy or understand dark matter. Now, this tells you the Secretary of Energy. He's using AI to figure out how to cure cancer. Excuse me. Does anybody know what their responsibilities are in this fine establishment? We're going to talk about RFK Jr. in a second. So, yeah. Our Defense Department, says Chris Wright, is trying to figure out how to keep America safe. I thought they were renaming themselves into Department of War and bombing people from Venezuela. Anyway, we're using different applications. God bless the First Lady. She, of course, is wiser than all of us. I mean, I have no comment. Listen. Okay, so as to bombing Venezuelans, right? So there are questions. There are some questions about the strike on alleged cartel boat. Okay, can we dive into some facts here? Because I feel like I'm a bit of a Twilight Zone. So, experts are raising doubts about the U.S. military recent strike on what officials claimed was the Strand de Aragua boat in the Caribbean. Ooh. The Trump administration framed the deadly operation as opening move in broader campaign against cartels, right? They bombed this boat, killed 11 people. Now, here's my question about the boat. Here's the boat from Fox News, right? Can't make it up. The Pentagon celebrated the incident as successful interdiction, but analysts point out to this inconsistency. So the small boat allegedly was traveling from Venezuela to US, mind you, distance of 1,500 miles. There was a motorcycle, so 1,500 miles. This little ass boat was traveling, apparently. By far, all the experts are saying this thing could not have made the trip. A rough calculation shows the fuel required would be nearly equal to the vessel's entire size, making the claim implausible. Serious concerns have also been raised about legality of the strike, because remember I told you Rubio has directed to bomb it? It remains unclear whether those aboard actually got a chance to surrender before U.S. forces bombed them. Specialists in the law of war warned that the operation may amount to extrajudicial killing. And somebody put it up there, if they can kill Venezuelans just like that, they can kill anybody. And this might sound like, oh, it's so provocative. It's so, loud. But it's also true, And it was Trump announcing that he's working on deporting New York City-born Rosie O'Donnell. What do you think he's going to do with people who are naturalized? And Supreme Court is sort of like another arm of Trump at this point. So now, if you're using Amazon, I'm just going through national news real quick. Amazon announced that it ends its Prime Invitee program by October 1st. I didn't even know they had it. So apparently, if you have Amazon Prime and your friend or family member doesn't, you can grant them possibility to use your Amazon Prime to get free shipping. So this will end on October 1st. Those who are taking advantage of this will pay $14.99 for the first year and then $139 per usual. There's also Amazon Family Program, so use it if you knew about it and you need it by October 1st. Now, Florida became the first state in what? In strapping vaccine mandates. Florida will become the first U.S. state to eliminate all vaccine requirements, including those needed to public school enrollment. At a press conference, Governor DeSantis and State Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo announced the move, with Ladapo declaring, quote, "Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery," end quote. Apparently, you were a slave of the vaccines. The decision has drawn sharp criticism from public health experts who warn it could trigger severe outbreaks among both residents and tourists. All other U.S. states continue to require vaccinations for school attendance, with varying exemptions. A CDC report last year found that routine vaccines have saved the lives of 1.1 million Americans, children, and avoided $540 billion in healthcare costs since 1994. U.S. jobs decline. The U.S. labor market showed further signs of cooling in July, according to new JOLTS data from Bureau of Labor Statistics. So, employers reported 7.2 million job openings, down from 7.4 in June. Other indicators, such as layoffs and quits, remained stable. Still, the drop in demand for workers suggests a softening labor market, which could influence the Federal Reserve's upcoming rate cut decision. Quote, "This job market is frozen, and it's difficult for anyone to get a job right now," said the chief economist of Navy Federal Credit Union. Now, as to RFK Jr., he was grilled in the hearing today on Capitol Hill. He's crazy. Sorry, I don't know if you watched a clip of it, maybe the whole thing. The guy and the worm, I don't know who's smarter at this point. Maybe the worm. We should just grill the worm next time or talk to the worm. At least it ate the brain. I don't know. Scary. I would describe it with one word. Scary as shit. 3 words. Well, here's 5 takeaways. Bipartisan scrutiny over vaccine policy shifts. Kennedy faced sustained bipartisan criticism for his sweeping changes at the CDC, including firing its director, disbanding its vaccine advisory panel, and narrowing COVID-19 booster eligibility. Now, at least bipartisan support is there to ask him if he has something down there, up there. Second point. Senators intensively questioned the ouster of CDC Director Susan Monaris, who claims she was pressured to pre-approve recommendations from Kennedy's handpicked advisory group, accusations he denied, dismissing her as untrustworthy. Third point. Kennedy rejected promises about universal booster access, asserting healthy individuals could still get vaccinated with doctor's approval, drawing alarm from lawmakers worried about barriers to vaccination. Like, why? Have you ever tried to get an appointment with your primary care doctor if you're like on the regular type of insurance? You wait. And so all you got to do is wait and get to your doctor and get the prescription. Then you wait for the COVID vaccine. And then by that time, it's already spring 2026. What are you talking about? You are reversing this entire structure where you could go to goddamn CVS and get your vaccine if you want to and be done with it. Now you have to wait for a doctor, convince your doctor. Your doctor will be scared shitlessly to prescribe the vaccine because probably the doctor will be interrogated. So, fourth point, the hearing was marked by emotional clashes. Kennedy called Democrat senators that they're making stuff up, while he was rebuked for vague answers, rejected CDC data, and questioning COVID death toll estimates, undermining confidence in his public health record. There is no confidence. He was confronted with the fact that, a million people or more died in the United States from COVID. And he said, I don't know this statistic. They're like, why? You're head of you're head of health services. You don't know the statistics. He goes, yeah, but the statistics are fake, They're like so manipulated. Who knows how many actually died from COVID? That reminds me on Russia. Because I and my family were the unfortunate ones whose the sister of my grandmother, who lived in Moscow at that point, very pro-Putin, but, you know, ties, you speak and ask how they are and all that. She went through this COVID story, and unfortunately she passed from it. And there was a whole thing with them not giving tests, not testing it as COVID, not putting it anywhere that this was the reason for being sick and for, untimely departure. This reminds me on that. And, you know, back in those days, a couple of years ago at this point, you know, we were looking at it like, okay, it's a shitty country based on lies. They manipulate statistics. It's such a shithole. But okay, I mean, let's handle it for what we are and just treat our family member respectfully. Now we are here. We are that country. We're at that hole. And fifth point, in striking contradiction, Kennedy praised Trump Operation Warp Speed, calling it monumental and deserving Nobel Peace Prize, because anything qualifies for it. Despite his prior legal efforts to restrict COVID-19 vaccine access, senators pressed him on what appeared to be inconsistent messaging. So whatever Trump did is great. COVID vaccine, bad. Trump did the COVID vaccine, great. COVID vaccine, still bad. Yeah. Head of our health services. Quick news, U.S. economy. You decide what the numbers are. Imports in July rose 5.9%. What does it mean? We buying more stuff from overseas by 5.9%. Okay, good. Exports rose 0.3%. Remember, the reason behind the crazy tariffs was to fix the deficit. The deficit meaning we're buying more than we're selling. Let's put tariffs so this will even itself out. And we're completely neglecting the fact that we sell more services than we buy because that doesn't fit the narrative. Okay. But even with those tariffs, we're now actually in the position where our deficit is worsening itself. Labor market, U.S. employers announced 85.979, so 8,979 job cuts in August, the highest for August since 2020, also under Trump. Now, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Because I hear so many different versions. Nigel Farage, the ultra-right, crazy fascist guy in the UK. He was grilled by Democrats on Capitol Hill over his ties to Russia. Take a look at the video, because that's the guy who will be running for prime minister, who's supported by CPAC, supported by the Trump group. Take a look.
There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has not shut down GB News, where Mr. Farage has his own show, just because Mr. Farage has used his airtime to call for banning peaceful protests that he disagrees with. No one has stopped him from going on Russian TV 17 times and saying also and repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and a dictator who has regularly interfered in other countries' democratic elections. No one has stopped Mr. Farage from parroting Putin's absurd talking points, like when Farage claimed that NATO, the U.S. and Britain, provoked this war in Ukraine. For a man who fashions himself as some kind of a free speech martyr, Mr. Farage seems most at home with the autocrats and dictators of the world who are crushing freedom on earth. Mr. Farage wants to get rid of the Online Safety Act in his country, a law shepherded by the Conservative Party and implemented by the Labour Party, which bans child pornography online, protects children from harmful content, forbids non-consensual pornography and other unlawful content. He should go and advance the positions he's taking here in Congress today in Parliament, which is meeting today, if he's serious about it. To the people of UK who think this Putin-loving free speech imposter and Trump sycophant will protect freedom in your country, come on over to America and see what Trump and MAGA are doing to destroy our freedom, kidnap college students off the street, ban books from our libraries, militarize our police and unleash them against our communities, take over our universities, wreck our professional civil service, and turn the government into a money-making machine for Trump and his family. You might think twice before you let Mr. Farage make Britain great again. I yield back.
Yes, Skyman's Follies, welcome back. I agree. Good. We need it. And, the question is, why do we talk about Farage here? I mean, he's not in the US, but this is part of the entire structure. I do believe produced somewhere in China, then taught to Putin to infiltrate it through FSB into Europe and US, and then manifested into this self-destruction, which we're experiencing right now. Part of the entire thing, trying to affect Europe from within by installing those agents that are promoting right-wing theories to those uneducated people who are easily impressed and devoted into following those clowns into self-destruction. So, more quick news. Eric Adams, remember, is our current mayor in New York City, taking bribes from the Turkish mission, allowing them to build buildings, all that. So Trump advisors reportedly discussing giving Eric Adams a role in administration, hoping the now candidate will exit the race, which would then, in Trump's mind, weaken Zoran Mamdani's chances in New York City. We're voting in November. The White House has directed agencies to obstruct offshore wind projects because Trump has criticized wind farms as ugly, costly, and inefficient. Also bad for golf courses, and that's the main reason. The Justice Department challenged in-state tuition for unauthorized immigrants, arguing the policies discriminate against U.S. citizens. So if you're here and, well, maybe your parents filed for asylum and didn't get it, or came here in one way or another, and you're going to school, now you won't be able to go to school because somehow you're taking a spot from an American kid. So what's better? To have uneducated immigrants who cannot read in our communities, who will never get a job, who will, work with whatever is left to them? That's cool. The Trump administration asked Supreme Court to move quickly to allow continuation of global tariffs that are, by the way, illegal. California, Oregon, and Washington plan to set their own vaccine guidance in defiance of CDC changes under RFK Jr. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. is nominating 7 new advisors to CDC vaccine panel. And as I told you yesterday, they have nothing to do with medicine. Quick global news. Today in the morning, it was announced that Italian fashion legend Giorgio Armani has died at 91 years old. And there were so many interesting and wonderful, speeches, testimonials, and photos and videos posted online. So if you get to see it, I really recommend you to watch it till the end. Now, as to defense and space, analysts describe a gold rush around Pentagon's projected $175 billion Golden Dome missile defense program. Golden Dome, right? Now, if you're Canadian, listen up. Canadian operator Telesat plans to compete through its Lightspeed LEO broadband satellites, according to CEO Dan Goldberg. So Canadian company is competing for a project within the Golden Dome system. As to China military parade, we talked extensively about it yesterday, so enough. But China unveiled directed energy laser weapon known as LY-1 at its September 3rd military parade. Officially described as shipboard self-defense, the system's design suggests possible land-based applications. And as to India, Modi was not at the Chinese parade because he was hosting Semicon India. He met with global semiconductor CEOs at the conference. He highlighted India's infrastructure upgrades, reforms, and talent development, stressing the country's role as an emerging hub for semiconductor innovation and manufacturing. So wherever we are stepping out, India and China and everybody comes in. As to Middle East tensions, there's some global news. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich called for annexing most of West Bank, drawing swift public rebuke from United Arab Emirates. And this is interesting here. So UAE had conditioned the Abraham Accords, 2020 normalization deal, right, that Trump signed and Kushner and whatever negotiated, on Israel suspending annexation plans. Now, Israeli officials now say that the commitment has expired and they will not be acting according to those accords. Now, senior Emirati official Lana Nuseibeh warned annexation was a red line that would severely undermine the regional integration vision central for Trump's first-term Middle East policy. Please, senior Emirati official, understand that the Trump first policy, forget about it. We got this Trump now. Please look at him as what he is today and what he stands for today. He doesn't give a shit, himself about what he said 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So please act accordingly. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. officials have not commented. Okay. Now, as to Gaza, several countries now pledging to recognize Palestinian state say the move is intended to pressure Israel to end the war, obviously. Now, Hamas declared readiness for a comprehensive deal to end the war and release now all Israeli hostages. Netanyahu dismissed it as another spin by Hamas and said peace requires Gaza demilitarization, Israeli security control, and creation of alternative civilian administration. Where have you heard those? Kremlin. When it comes to Ukraine. Israel's military is advancing plans to occupy Gaza City as part of taking control of the territory. A Palestinian-American mediator claimed a comprehensive U.S. proposal to end the war and free hostages is on the table. And by the way, it's the table and the proposals from the Biden administration, which Biden did announce in May of last year. So, and lastly, two things: India-Singapore partnership. So remember the semicon in India? So India and Singapore signed new agreements to cooperate on shipping, civil aviation, and industrial job training. Modi and Lawrence Wong also pledged collaboration in AI and semiconductors, and the deal builds on last year's comprehensive partnership agreement, strengthening economic ties between the two nations. So that's India and Singapore. As to U.S. immigration policy, now Trump's administration officially ended the temporary protection status for Venezuelans. 270,000 people will be now deported or will be invited to leave by themselves, leave the country. Now, as to global trade updates, U.S. cotton exports to China plunged 90% year on year in the first half of 2025. Exports to Vietnam nearly tripled, while shipments also rose to Pakistan and Turkey. The decline comes amid Trump's fluctuating tariffs on China, leaving global markets uncertain. As to South Korea, they are reconsidering membership in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. The so-called IP4. Remember, Biden was building it all together. South Korea, it was, who else was there? New Zealand, and yeah. So anyway, 4. Japan, Australia, right? Those 4. Now South Korea tries to get out of it. Remember their failed negotiation with Trump, Trump leaving, not being interested in their proposals. All this, has consequences. So Seoul's shift comes in response to U.S. tariffs, despite earlier reluctance to cut its own tariffs and strained relations with Japan, a key CPTPP member. That's that Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. All of that is very important to secure the Indo-Pacific in case we were to confront China. Here we are. And lastly, in Today in History, if you are from Los Angeles, 1781. On this day, Spanish settlers laid claim to what would become Los Angeles, now America's second largest city in the heart of the film industry. also on this day, September 4th, the Western Roman Empire fell in 476. Romulus Augustulus, the last emperor of Western Roman Empire, was deposed by Odoacer, ushering in the new era and marking the traditional end of ancient Rome's Western reign. Then Kodak roll film patent was, patent, whatever, how do you call it? 1888, George Eastman received this recognition of roll film Kodak camera, which then became the very important part of our lives, right? Landmark of photography. Now, Little Rock integration crisis in 1957, 9 African-American students known as Little Rock 9 were initially blocked from entering Little Rock Central High School by the governor of Arkansas, prompting federal intervention to uphold desegregation. So, this was in history on September 4th. And lastly, I always want to finish on a good note. I was looking out for something that would remind us about our humanity, and all I could find is a clip of animals. So here's a little bird building a nest for a cat that is about to give birth. I know, listen, it's cute, but we need. And so for humanity, we look at animals now, right? Remember the saying before, we used to say you're such an animal? Nah, this is a compliment. We're beyond that. So today's Thursday. We're almost there. So again, keep your head on a swivel. This was actual news. If you want more, I'm about to send you the news briefing, right? Subscribe to it. It's free. Share it. Read it. It has a bit more details and data. So take a look at it. I try to keep it short and fuzzy, but works every day differently according to the news. Now, what we're looking forward to tomorrow, I have no idea in terms of Trump, because they release his schedules very late at night. What I do have from Canada, that at 9 a.m. Prime Minister will convene to attend Cabinet Planning Forum. Then he will deliver remarks to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Toronto International Film Festival. So we certainly are seeing Prime Minister Carney tomorrow. And that's it. That's all I know for tomorrow. We will probably get more information on Coalition of the Willing, and if anything will manifest itself, what Trump will announce in terms of sanctions on Ukraine, certainly not on Russia. So let's take it with a grain of salt, okay? Keep your head on a swivel. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Morgan. Missed the live today. I'll watch it later. Good point. Please do. Thank you, Skyman's Follies. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you for commenting. Thank you so much. Have a restful evening. Thanks. Yes. If you are watching it on YouTube or elsewhere, please like it. Please subscribe so algorithms can get this to more people. All right. Have a good night. Stay safe and sane, and see you tomorrow.